y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mahali of Mahali Studio, and you are in the studio with me today, and I'm excited to share with you all my top 5 Copic sketch markers for rendering skin tone. I have a background in fashion illustration and design, and I love to create fashion art paper dolls, so I do a lot of rendering of fashion looks, my own designs, and when it comes to sketching faces and stuff like that, it's one of the things I love to do as well. And I thought this would be a great chance for me to share with you all, especially if you're new to Copic sketch markers or to fashion illustration, or you're trying to learn more about how to render skin tone, sharing with you all my top 5 Copic sketch markers that I use for skin tone all the time. When it comes to rendering skin tone, I like to have a diverse group of skin tone. So from very fair, medium, dark, depends on the fashion look that I'm doing, if it's one of my own designs, or from a runway look, I do those as well. And I channel all that through my paper dolls. But today I'm going to show you on these fashion faces, these sketches that I did using the Fashionary sketchbook, which is a great tool, especially if you're not comfortable yet with drawing freehand. For those of you unfamiliar with the Fashionary brand, they have physical sketchbooks, they have an app for sketching fashion looks. This is great for illustrators, designers. They also now have a Fashionary pattern app where you can create repeat patterns on your iPad or your iPhone. Really great products. I love their sketchbooks. I love their templates as well. It's what I use. And what's great about this sketchbook and where I sketched these ones out initially is that they have the head. It's really for sketching out ideas for headwear, hats and stuff. But it's also a great way to practice drawing faces. So the fine dotted lines are really great for working on proportions, and it's a quick way to get your ideas out on the go. If you're more analog like me and you like paper, or if you like to do this on their apps, both are really great. I'm old school, so I prefer to sketch with a pencil in my Fashionary sketchbook. These are the templates, the poses for fashion illustration and designs that I mentioned. These are great. There's 100 here, and they are all these great poses. So it's a great way to practice, and it's just really conveniently organized by the different categories, so casual and stuff like that. I can deep dive deeper onto these and which ones do I like to use if that's something that would be valuable to you all. Let me know in the comments. I would love to share with you. I'm very passionate about Fashionary. Been using it for years now. But for today's video, we're gonna focus on skin tone, and we're gonna focus on the Copic sketch markers I use and recommend. Again, there's so many other wonderful markers out there. I use Copic sketch markers and I absolutely love them. So my first most used, and these are in no particular order, but the first most used Copic sketch marker for skin tone that I love is E30. This is that very fair light skin. I feel like it's kind of like mine. Was introduced to this during my years in university when I was learning fashion design and illustration, and it is a great tone to build on. And pairing it in fact with E31, using E31 for the shadows is also great, but I particularly like to use it on its own and build it with its own marker to get that fair tone. So I have a little swatch here for y'all to see. This is the tone. I've kind of layered it a couple of times. Now let's render this fashion face with E30. I like to render with the brush tip. I think it's finer and it gives me much more blendability when I'm rendering. I like to kind of outline the face, sort of the dark areas where the shadows might be, and highlighting what I already know I want a little more defined. So I start with the outer edges. And I'm just gently going where we have a little bit of shadow before I start adding in those layers at the outer edges. Got that nice and outlined now, and I can start bringing in the rest of it. We know the light is hitting kind of straight on and always in light blending motion, leaving a little bit of light, but also appreciating complexity of the skin tone. Very delicate, going back over So you can see how E30 really does build up really nicely. And you can get the nice shadows with it. Or if you prefer, use the next one, which is E34, to get those shadows. Sometimes I will do that as well if I want them to be a little more dramatic. So the corners of the eyes. She's got some nice cheekbones. She's got a lot of hair. So that's getting a little bit of creating a little bit of a shadow as well. And you can really have fun with this one and really build it up nicely and decide how deep and dark those shadows are. And the brush tip really lets you blend everything really nicely and get that beautiful effect. So E30, much beloved. Second on my list, and again in no particular order, but one I definitely turn to a lot and I absolutely love, is E34. It's a step or two past E30 and E31, which I will show you E31 as well. E34 is warmer, it's richer, it's darker, and it creates a beautiful skin tone that like I said, I go to a lot. These 5 are probably the ones I use the most. Now there are a lot of earth tones, that's what the E stands for, in the Copic sketch marker line. So there's even more that I'm always trying to add and explore when it comes to skin tone, and a lot of these are really good for hair too. Now this fashion face, she's got some cool jewels, piercings, I don't know what I was thinking about at the time. I'm going to start with the outer edges where the hairline is. Here we can kind of see her ears, so we can get those in as well. And when you're practicing and getting familiar, don't worry about it being perfect. It's okay to just have fun with it. But again, I'm starting with the outer edges and defining where I know it's going to be darker. We're head on, so it's in terms of the light. So there we go. Get the first of the darker aspects of it. And then once you've defined enough of that, go with the lighter, and you can build with this. That's what's great about the Copic sketch markers, is that you can really build your lights to your darks, get the shadows, get that definition you want. And really, if you're starting off, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Find which markers you like, which do you enjoy working with, and don't be afraid of the darker tones, because while they can sometimes be intimidating when it comes to creating the shading, it is so nice to have beautiful variety. And it's great for whatever you're designing or sketching, because you want it to reflect and be the most flattering, what looks best. Get the darker areas in the ears, under the nose, and you can just keep going at that until you're at a point where you're satisfied. Okay, so I've gone and added a little bit more of the shading to get the details in that I want. But as you can see, you can still create the same light effect, but you get this really beautiful skin tone. I really love E34. Absolutely gorgeous. Another one that I absolutely love and use a lot is E23, which is a step darker than E34, which is great. And for this video, I just printed these on printer paper. Nice printer paper, but it's a great way to practice. So before running to render on a nicer, thicker paper, I mentioned that just something to keep in mind, because then you can also make multiple copies. What I like to do is I like to take my sketches and scan them and clean them up a bit in Photoshop or Canva, and then print them out. And this is a great way to practice. practice. So just something to think about when you're developing your process. If you are new to rendering, fashion illustration, designs, sketching, drawing, you can go straight to the proper paper, the mixed media paper, the marker paper, whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're not comfortable and you want to sort of have a way to practice, really, if you are looking for a way to practice, that sort of takes away, I believe, the fear. This has always worked for me, and so I recommend that. Easy, and you can do a whole bunch of copies, and I've been doing this since my school days, which was a long time ago. So again, same method really, which is a great one to practice. Get those edges, the hairline, the shadows in the eyes, and lay that out for yourself first. It's a great guideline. I love a good cheekbone, as you can see, high cheekbones. And the brush side, because it just does such a beautiful line, and it's just so great for blending. You know, we're all so different, and we come in many beautiful tones of skin tone. So it's a lot of fun to be able to explore that and represent that in your illustrations. And of course, you know, work with what you connect with. You know, there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, so I'm laying out, again, getting the darks down that I want. The light is head on. Before I lay down the color. Get a little light on the nose. And it's just so fun and relaxing to do this. So I hope you are joining me and rendering along your beautiful drawings as well. And you want to make sure you're working pretty quickly because it does dry. So anytime you want to be blending, just make sure you have a plan and you're coming in and you know where the light is and where you want more shadows, where you want to highlight what is important in your illustration and sketch. And there we go. Look at that nice, beautiful skin tone. All right, so the next one that I use a lot, and I've now mentioned a couple of times, is E31, which, like I said, you can pair with E30 for those rich shadows or build with E30 on its own. And same is true for E31 and E34. You can use E34, which we used over here, to build shadows for E31, or simply use E31, which is what I'm going to do and what I typically do. I don't like too dramatic of shadows, but I know sometimes it can be really impactful, and certain illustrators use that style, and it's beautiful. So depending on what your style is and where you're developing and what you're looking to do, you always have that as an option. And if you're never sure when it comes to Copic markers, look at the sister marker to it, which is where I go back to why using the swatch cards is so great. If you haven't seen that series, check it out. I swatch all the markers that I currently own, and I talk a lot about sister markers. So here, I'm not going to go directly under her hairline, though I could to get that shape, but that's because of the hair color I have planned for her. So it's not really necessary because it's not light, it's a pretty dark color. And I'll share that with you all too. So I'm just laying in those edges, the darker edges, defining my shadows. And you see how it is related to E30, but it's got more of a warmth to it. So again, same method, great practice. Like if you can get these markers and start practicing your rendering skills, specifically with skin tone, I think you can get a lot sort of figured out, right, with practice, because it does focus on these kinds of shadows, and we're working with head on, so the way the light is hitting, and to give us that little bit of depth. Once I'm happy with the darkest part, which again, I'm continuing to build as I go along, but then I can start with just blending in sort of the lighter, the nose, the little point, and where I know it's darker. And then lightly blending in, that little highlight on the chin. And this is where, you get kind of to decide how much light do you want. Do you want high cheekbones the way I do? You don't have to. What is your subject? What is the mood? How much light is shining through? What's the setting? Here with her, I've got a bit of a necklace, so that'll be fun detail to do later as well. And she's got a lot of hair. It's nice and long, but I can decide how much light I'm leaving. And have fun with it. You're exploring, you're learning, you're developing your style. And that's what's so special and fun, especially in the beginning. I really tried to rush that for myself at first. I wanted to already have that, and I didn't appreciate the process that goes into it and how much the journey of exploring and making mistakes is where the fun lies and where the learning is. So I do recommend you give yourself that grace and have fun with it, because there's nothing like that and you can't repeat it. So have fun exploring and looking at images, looking at magazine images where you have really dramatic light a lot of times, and that can help you learn. Looking at runway, editorial, but also pictures of yourself and your friends, because it is lovely to study others to get a better understanding. All right, once I'm happy with that, I'm gonna let that dry. Last, but certainly not least, is E57. This of the 5 is the darkest and a beautiful, rich skin tone. I love this earth tone. They call it light walnut, but it's just got so much depth. And again, for that beautiful progression of different types of skin tone, this one is another fave and that I use a lot. So again, on the brush tip, we're going to do those darker edges. And here, I've drawn the hair on her face, so you don't want to miss those edges because the skin tone is there. And again, keeping it simple with the light straight on. Of course, I've got my high cheekbones. Here we can see her ears a little bit too, so we can get that detail in there. And what's great about all these markers is the buildability and how gorgeous you can create that depth, those highlights, those shadows, to bring your illustration, your drawing to life. It's always good to step back, take a look, see that you're getting everything that you like before laying down color. And you're just blending slowly. slowly but quickly because it does dry quickly. So you want that nice smooth finish, which again is why just good quality printer paper, copy paper is a great way to practice. Marker paper is great, it can be more expensive, so depending on what you have on hand. I love working with this for practice. Before going to, when I render my paper dolls, I render on mixed media. So it's a thicker paper and it takes the marker differently. So you need to kind of practice on that as well. Now I'm just going to continue laying in my darks, getting my highlights, getting the shapes of the nose, around the lips. Don't worry if you get a little bit on the lips. Not the end of the world. We are going to do lip colors. I'm going to show you that as well in a separate video. And hair color. Also, separate video. I'm going to show you the ones I use the most and sort of my techniques for rendering. Here I don't have as much of the neck drawn. That's okay. I just sort of have a bit of the detail. All right, y'all, so there you have it. These are my top 5 Copic sketch markers for rendering skin tone. E30, E34, E23, E31, and E57. Now, I like to outline my drawings, so these are in no way complete. I like to make the details pop using the Copic multi-liners. Join me in my next video where I will show you how to render hair, and in another video, how to render lips. And I will share with you which are my most used for hair, which are more than 5 because I like to create a little bit more depth and tone. And with the lips, there are my top 5 for lip tones. So I'll see you in my next video. If you have any comments or questions about this video or these markers, let me know. As always, thank you so much for joining me today in the studio. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye, y'all.